Hi everyone, welcome back to another mini lesson. My name is Cynthia Morales and I will be guiding you through today's mini lesson. We will be talking about Albert Bandura, more specifically, an overview on his life, his merits, honors, awards, achievements, all of that good stuff. Our learning objectives are that you'll be able to name at least one award that Bandura received, identify at least one of his book titles, and name the fields for which he contributed so much to. Our goal is that upon successful completion of this lesson, you will have a general overview of Albert Bandura's life. Let's start in the beginning. Albert Bandura was born on December 4th, 1925, and he had Eastern European roots because his father was actually from Poland and his mother from Ukraine. His parents didn't stay in Europe. They actually migrated to Canada, where they married, started a family, and they had 6 children. Albert was the baby of the house. He was the only boy, and his 5 siblings were sisters. He met Virginia Varnes, or who he called Ginny, in a golf course. He was actually playing golf with a friend, and Ginny was also there with a friend, and they met up, and it just started from there. They married in 1952, and together they had 2 children, Mary, who was born in 1954, and Carol, who was born 4 years after that. His family loved traveling and hiking and the opera, and that's who his family was. Moving on to education, he actually completed grade school in Canada, but he also completed his bachelor's degree in 1949 at the University of British Columbia. That was all before he came over to the States, and he completed his master's degree in 1951 and a doctorate degree in 1952, both from the University of Iowa. Now, we know that Albert was a psychologist, he was doing research, but his actual, you could say, job was actually being an instructor, being a professor. He started off in 1953 being an instructor at Stanford, and he quickly became a professor. And he stayed in Stanford actually for over 50 years. He retired as a professor in 2010, but clearly he loved doing what he did. He loved the place that he worked at because he stayed there for over 50 years. So let's talk about the honors and awards that Albert Bandura received. It's actually impossible for me to cover all of his awards in just this one slide because he received so many awards. But here are some of them. In 2004, he received the Outstanding Lifetime Contribution to Psychology Award from the American Psychological Association. In 2016, he actually received the National Medal of Science. Now, this is a fancy one because our former president, Barack Obama, actually gave him this medal. So I'm going to insert the video clip here so that you can see the moment that Albert Bandura receives the medal from our former president.
Albert Bandura. National Medal of Science to Albert Bandura, Stanford University, California, for fundamental advances in the understanding of social learning mechanisms and self-referent thinking processes in motivation and behavior change, and for the development of social cognitive theory of human action and psychological development.
The Association for Psychological Sciences awarded him the Gold Medal Award for his lifetime contributions. and he was president of the American Psychological Association in 1974, as well as the Western Psychological Association in 1981. But he was also appointed honorary president of the Canadian Psychological Association. As far as achievements, we know that he had so many, but here I listed some of them. He was a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and in 1964, he was elected as a fellow for the American Psychological Association. During the 60s, he actually launched a research program that focused on children's development and self regulatory capabilities. And in 1974, he became the David Starr Jordan Professor of Social Science and Psychology. By the 1980s, he had developed a social cognitive theory of human functioning, but like I mentioned at the very beginning of today's lesson, I will not be touching on that because that will be an entire lesson in itself. And in 2002, the Review of General Psychology ranked Bandura the 20th century's fourth most eminent psychologist. So that's huge. Not only was Albert Bandura a psychologist, a researcher, a professor, he also wrote many books. I didn't list all of his books here, but here we have 6 of them that he did write. His very first book in 1959 was Adolescent Aggression. In 1963, he wrote Social Learning and Personality Development. In 1973, we have Aggression, a Social Learning Analysis. 1977, Social Learning Theory. 1986, Social Foundations of Thought and Action, a Social Cognitive Theory. And his very last book is Moral Disengagement, How People Do Harm and Live with Themselves. So we've made it to the final years of Albert Bandura's life, and I wanted to add this quote by Bandura himself. It says, "I am reminded of the saying that it is not the miles traveled, but the amount of tread remaining that is important. When I last checked, I still have too much tread left to gear down or to conclude this engaging odyssey." We know that in his final years, he still did research, he spoke at conferences, he was still receiving awards, but unfortunately, he did pass away this year on July 26th of congestive heart failure. We know that Bandura has contributed so much to his field, and we have all learned so much from him. And we know that he is one of the most influential theorists in the field of child development and psychology. And although he is no longer with us, we all know that we will continue to read about him and learn from him as we all continue through our academic journey in this field. Now, before we actually wrap up this mini lesson, I do have a quiz question for you. So take a second to think about this, and without actually going back into the slides, just think about the question. Which one of these awards was awarded to Albert Bandura by our former president, Barack Obama? Was it A, Gold Medal Award, B, National Medal of Science, C, Outstanding Lifetime Contribution to Psychology Award, or D, all of the above? Take a second. And if you chose B, National Medal of Science, you are correct. And that actually concludes the lesson. Ahead, I will attach the references. And I just want to thank you for hanging in there and sticking with me through the entire lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something new that you didn't already know. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.